Hey guys, Mike here. So today, I'm here to talk to you about Yesterday. In this review, I'll be going over a brief summary of the plot, my quick thoughts about the film, and whether or not you guys should go and see it. So I'm going to try and keep this review spoiler-free. However, if you don't know anything about the film, and you want to go in completely blind, then it's just come back to this video once you've seen the film. So with that, let's get started, shall we?
I do have a suggestion.
Hey, dude, are you sure?
Hey, dude.
He's right. That's better.
So Yesterday stars Himesh Patel as Jack Malik and Lily James as Ellie Appleton. In Yesterday, Jack Malik is an aspiring musician who could never really get his career to take off. Just when he's about to give up and pretty much just go back to his regular job and just stop pursuing music entirely, the world has this sudden blackout for 12 seconds, and in that time he gets hit by a bus and he ends up in the hospital. And luckily, other than a few cuts and bruises and losing a couple of his teeth, he's pretty much fine. Except when he happens to talk to his friends about the Beatles or plays a song to them, they have absolutely no idea what he's talking about. They think that he wrote the music, and obviously they think it's pretty good. But he's just completely lost. He's wondering, like, what are you talking about? How do you not know the Beatles? So he starts to research, and he can't find any trace that the Beatles ever existed. So, seeing an opportunity to get his career off the ground and to make a bit of money, he decides to pass the Beatles' music off as his own. And it doesn't take long for his music to get heard, and for him just to skyrocket right up to the top, and for everyone to be calling him one of the greatest musicians who ever lived. Though, obviously, in his heart, he knows this isn't true. And so we have Yesterday. So before I get into my kind of nitpicky things about this movie, I want to talk about the things I liked. So first of all, Himesh Patel and Lily James, they are pretty good in this movie. Though I wouldn't say that these roles were particularly anything that only they could play, they definitely gave decent enough performances and really do get you through this movie. And I would say they have really good chemistry together, and you are really rooting for these characters. So when I first heard about this movie, I saw the poster, and I wasn't initially interested in going to see it. Normally when I see a poster for a movie that I want to go see, I'll just be like, yep, I'll go see that, don't need to find anything out, I'll just go see it. But it wasn't really until I stumbled upon the trailer where I found out about the concept of this movie and where I actually got interested in it. So as I got closer and closer to actually seeing this movie, I kind of was losing a bit of interest and thinking, oh, this probably won't actually be all that good. But thankfully, the movie is much better than I thought it was going to be. Yesterday has a wonderful energy, and it really keeps you interested from start, middle, and end. And also, I couldn't do this review if I didn't talk about one of the greatest characters who was ever in Game of Thrones and makes an appearance in this movie, Ed Sheeran as, well, himself. Now, in all fairness, it's hard to call someone a bad actor when they're playing themselves, but, you know, I thought Ed Sheeran was quite good in this, even though obviously he was playing himself. Now, I don't really know Ed Sheeran all that well, I don't know what he's like as a person. I only really listened to his music, so I only really had that to go off of, and, you know, I thought that he was okay in the movie. Nothing to particularly rave about, he's not exactly the next musician turned actor. But still, decent enough performance, I did quite like him in this. Actually, another thing I did appreciate about this was they didn't just make it that only the Beatles didn't exist. There are also a couple of other things that also now don't exist as well, which come up in conversation. But I'd say the problem is, though, that the movie never really explains why this happened or why it's happening to these specific things. I don't know if it's gone like 500 years in the past and it's removed one person from history who influenced all these things or is the descendant or ancestor or whatever of certain people who now don't exist. I guess that's really up to the audience interpretation. Though this lack of explanation isn't exactly a deal breaker and ruins the movie, it's just I thought they probably could have come up with just some explanation as to why it happened. And there was this one other scene which I don't really want to talk about because it does kind of enter spoiler territory, and it is much better if you see it for the first time yourself. All I can say is that it was easily my favourite scene in the movie, and it was a really heartwarming scene, and it probably does reflect how it actually probably would have gone for this person. That's all I'll say. But now, I gotta get on to my biggest gripe of the movie. Now, my biggest issue is how Jack actually gets famous by performing the Beatles songs. Well, first of all, I wouldn't exactly call myself the biggest Beatles fan. I do definitely appreciate everything they did for music, and I do have a handful of their songs in my Spotify playlists. But I don't think it's enough just to sing the Beatles songs and get famous off them, because songs aren't just their words. They're the story behind them, they're the people who are singing them, they're the overlining and underlining messages that they're trying to convey. Because I only knew a handful of the songs that were in this movie, like Yesterday, Let It Be, All You Need Is Love, you know, a couple ones like that. And obviously when I hear those songs, I really like them. But then there are a couple of other songs, which I can't remember the name of, which I've never heard in my entire life, and they just don't do anything for me. And I think therein lies the problem, that the only reason that people really latch onto these songs probably today is because they're performed by the Beatles. Because hearing these songs that I don't know, they just sound like any other songs to me. They don't really, invoke any kind of emotion. Because these songs, when they were first performed, they were very of their time. They had a message, they had something to say about the time. And the Beatles themselves, they were more than just songs. They were sex symbols, they had personalities, they had something to say. And the biggest problem with Jack is, for the most part, he doesn't really have anything to say. He has no actual charisma, he has no actual stage presence, and he just doesn't really give any explanation to these songs. Like, he doesn't really say how he wrote them, he doesn't really say where they're from, because he doesn't really come across as the biggest Beatles fan. He just comes across as someone who does like their music but knows really nothing about them. I mean, for example, say this movie wasn't about the Beatles never existing. Say it was about Queen never existing. Now, Freddie Mercury is arguably one of the most famous and charismatic frontmen who ever existed, and probably one of the biggest reasons why Queen's music has lasted as long as it has and really kind of goes through each generation is probably mainly because of Freddie Mercury, because of what he had to say and his stage presence and just his overall just Freddie Mercury aura. Now, you take these songs and you give them to some random person and no one's ever heard these songs before, they're completely out of context. I don't think they'd have the same impact. And that's where I'd say the movie's biggest problem is, and for me, where it becomes a bit unbelievable, because just to pretty much repeat myself, the Beatles aren't just their words, they are the Beatles. That's pretty much all you can say. Now, I don't know if I'm talking out my ass or I'm not making any sense to anyone, but that's just how I feel. I don't know if you agree with me, let me know in the comments. But despite this massive criticism I have, it didn't actually lessen my enjoyment of the movie, because in the end I did really enjoy this movie. But now, as for whether or not, you guys should go and see it. If you're not really into the concept of this movie, or you're not really into the Beatles, or you think this is a bit too far-fetched because of the explanation probably say that I've just given, then I'd probably say steer clear of this movie. But if you're willing to look past these things and just enjoy this movie for what it is, and if you are a massive fan of the Beatles as well, that definitely helps, I think you'll really enjoy this one. I wouldn't exactly say that this is one that we'll probably be remembering for years to come, and I don't think this is the one that will be getting a sing-along re-release or whatever, like, say, Rocket Man or Bohemian Rhapsody or Greatest Showman, but I would say that, I'd say go see it. I think it's pretty good. I wouldn't say necessarily go see it in the cinema because it's not really enhanced by being on a big screen, and I'd actually say the only reason to see it on the big screen is probably to have a sing-along with everyone else, but if they don't do any of these re-release sing-alongs, then it's pretty pointless being on the big screen. But I'd say give it a watch, it's pretty interesting, and I definitely enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. Okay guys, that's my review of yesterday. If you've seen it, what did you think about it? And what's your favourite Beatles song? Whatever it is, drop it in the comments below, and until next time, I've been Michael. See ya!